Hey everybody, Tim here with today's review of Doctor Who, a big one. Story number 160, Doctor Who, the movie. Which, it's kind of a sore subject for a lot of people. Some people really like it, some people don't like it. Some people don't even think about it. They're like, whatever, it doesn't exist. So, it's a big thing. So, it's been 7 years since the original series ended. Realistically, it's only been 3 years since Dimensions in Time. So, some people have seen the Doctor recently. And, I don't know, for me, it's a little bit hard to talk about it because it is a product of its time. It is 1996, and this is clearly a television movie. It's bad. The plot, everything aside, the movie itself is bad. It has some really bad acting, it has some really bad directing, it has some really bad writing. But that being said, is it the worst thing ever? No, not at all. There's definitely been worse stuff before, there has been worse stuff after. But, it's allergy season, you guys gotta forgive me. But for this, I don't know, if you watch other stuff around those, early mid-90s, trying to make movies out of TV shows and stuff like that, it is a product of its time, like I said. So, I'm going to kind of do it like I always do. This will be kind of a long one, because I'm going to start from the top and go all the way down. So, we got a lot to talk about. So, for one, the opening... Well, I did a little bit. I don't like to do research into any of the episodes. My goal is to just watch it, tell you what I think about it flat on the surface, and then if you guys chime in with comments and stuff like that, that's great. I love to read it, where you guys are like, oh, this actor really hated this person, and that's why they didn't get along. Okay. So my goal is not to know anything of the production. For this one, I do know a little bit. For example, I know that this is more of an American remake rather than a reboot of the original series. So a little bit like that. So anyways, the whole opening scene makes zero sense to me. The Master has been captured. Oh, okay. I guess we don't need to know how he got off of Cheetah World because he always just escapes anyway. But still, how did he get captured? His grand trial is on Skaro. Skaro was destroyed? And why would the Master be going to trial on the Daleks' homeworld? I don't get that. It makes no sense. His last request is for the Doctor to bring his remains back to Gallifrey. Fine. We see the sonic screwdriver, and we see Seven return, Sylvester McCoy. And it's great to see Sylvester McCoy again. Like I said, we last time in Dimensions in Time, but still, it was great to kind of see him again. The TARDIS is bitchin'. It's like a living room. It's so nice, where he's got his recliners and carpeting, and I loved it. As soon as we see the inside of the TARDIS, I was like, this is glorious. This is the Doctor's man cave, and it was beautiful. I really, really liked it. I kind of would be down for more TARDIS interiors to look like that. I think he looked great. So, that being aside, his 900-year-old diary, which, we've seen stuff like that before. I think Patrick Troughton had a 500-year diary, which is kind of interesting. So, okay, so 400 years have passed between 2 and 7? Okay, we'll go with that, whatever. He's reading the time machine, which is funny because they've met H.G. Wells before, or at least the Doctor has. I think it was the 5th Doctor, or the 6th. I think it was the 6th Doctor, where it's Herbert. So, I liked how he's reading the time machine. It's classic. San Francisco, 1999. The interesting thing about this is it came out in 1996, takes place in San Francisco, 1999. I was in San Francisco between 96 and 99, so that was kind of cool. We see the Doctor get shot, and it's very sad. We meet Chang Lee. We see Eric Roberts playing the character Bruce, the ambulance driver. I really like Eric Roberts. I think Eric Roberts is a really good actor. I can't even really say that. He's not a good actor. He's not Julia Roberts. He's not bad. But I like him. I like everything from like Best of the Best and Best of the Best Part 2, which I think came out the same year as this. I mean, everything. Like, he's done a lot of really good movies. He's also done a lot of crap movies. And for this is one of those where, I mean, like, his acting is so over the top in everything he does. I mean, even if you look at him in, was it The Dark Knight? Like, he's so over the top as a gangster. Like, when Batman drops him off the roof, I'm like, good, bye. So, stuff like that. But there's just acting choices that he makes in this movie, and it's like, oh, was Eric Roberts really the best choice? So anyway, he's trying to get Chang Lee to sign the form, and so he signs it just John Smith, which is a great shout out to the original series, where he goes by John Smith several times over the years. We meet Dr. Grace, and her being a heart surgeon, and the doctor has 2 hearts. We finally get to see the 8th Doctor 22 minutes into this like hour and a half long movie. So basically it is Sylvester McCoy for the first half hour, even though he says like maybe a dozen words. Like, he does not talk very much. I hate the regeneration scene. Like, the regeneration itself is fine, it's no big deal. But when he sits up and there's the light beam right across his eyes, nope. Hard pass. He just looks like Morticia in the, the Barry Sonnenfeld Addams Family movies, where Morticia always has that beam of light across her eyes. That's all he looked like to me. So, no, I was so against that. Him going through stuff, he finds the scarf, the Master going into Eric Roberts' body makes no fucking sense. I don't think they even talk about, like, why he's a snake now, like, how his remains, like, rejuvenated. But who cares? It's Doctor Who, whatever. You cannot kill the Doctor. He's immortal. So, Green Eyes, they talk about how they have 13 lives apiece, 12 regeneration cycles. We see the Cloister Room, something we haven't seen since, like, the 5th Doctor. The whole scene where the Master is with Lee is so homoerotic, I could not handle it. Where he's like, okay, Lee, you're going to pull this massive rod out. Okay, now you're just going to look into this eye. You're going to look into the beam until the eye opens. And then when he's like, what? And he just grabs his head and shoves it down. It's even in, like, crotch level. Like, the whole scene with Eric Roberts just holding him by the back of the head right there. It's like he's blowing him, and it is so awkward. The Doctor kissing Grace. Okay, so it's the first time we've seen the Doctor kiss somebody. That's cool. The Doctor being half human is the dumbest thing ever. Like, I don't even really get it. And they never... I had actually forgotten about it. And they never, like, go on about it. So you never really hear anything else. Like, why is he... Where did it come from? Or anything like that. So it kind of bugged me a little bit. Him offering the officer a jelly baby was adorable. A great reference to the 2nd Doctor and the 4th Doctor. Oh, God, there's so much. And then the Doctor, when the Master says, oh, the Doctor's half human, it makes sense now. I was like, makes sense to who? Get it? Who? Oh. And then when the Doctor says, oh, I'm half human on my mother's side, it's got to be a joke. I don't know. I've never read or listened to any of the novels or the Big Finish plays or the comics or anything like that. I'm sure they've explained it somewhere. I'm just going to pretend that it was a mess up or a fluke or something, because it doesn't even make any sort of fucking sense. So, boop, that's gone. Eric Roberts being in the robes, and he's like, I like to dress for the occasion. Again, Eric Roberts being over the top for the Master, where he, like, kisses Lee on the head, and I was like, again, they're doing it. Like, they have to be. And then he kills him, so I was like, okay, that's over. The whole ending, just where the Doctor, like, undoes time for a few minutes, and it brings Grace back, and it brings Lee back, and it's like, the Master gets sucked into the vortex, and I don't know, the whole ending was like this big setup, and to me it just kind of felt flat. It felt like the pilot for a TV show. Like, a lot of TV shows have mediocre pilots. Like, I love The Next Generation. The Encounter at Farpoint is not a great story. I don't care what anybody says. But it's just, I don't know. If this had been picked up, I would have been ecstatic. I would love to see adventures of the Eighth Doctor and probably Dr. Grace and stuff like that. But I don't know. I can see why it didn't get picked up, although I think I read somewhere, like, it was actually popular in the UK, but it failed with American audiences, and that's why it never got picked up. So, I don't know, it is what it is. It's an okay movie. It is a fun adventure, but it's not good. It is really, really kind of rough to get through. So all of that being said, special feature! I'm going to go ahead and just jump right 17 years into the future, and we're just going to do a review for Night of the Doctor, because why the fuck not? Surprise! So 17 years later, Paul comes back for like the 50th anniversary for a short episode. It's like 7 minutes. And it's phenomenal. It's so good to see Paul back. And what I think is interesting is in the last 17 years, I could be wrong, I obviously have not done any math for this, but from what I've been kind of told, out of all the Doctor adventures for like Big Finish, Paul has done the most recording. So realistically, with all the actors doing all the episodes and Paul just doing the recordings, there's more Paul Doctor material out there for 8 than anybody else. So I think that's great. So 17 years, and when he's like, I'm a doctor, probably not the one you expected, I was like, oh, this is great! Like, super, super excited. Now, this is a spoiler because this did come out for like the 50th anniversary, so this is kind of down their line a little bit, but I couldn't help myself. It's Paul coming back, so I was like, let's do it. He talks about, like, he's trying to save this girl, Cass, and she's like, okay. And then he's like, this is my TARDIS, it's bigger on the inside. And she's like, fuck you, and closes the door on him. And she's like, I'd rather die. And he's like, no, I'm not part of the war. And it's like, I'm not as bad as a Dalek. And she's like, well, who could tell the difference? And it's like, ooh, like drama, what's going on? So super kind of excited for that. He crashes, and where does he end up? The Sisterhood of Karn, who we have not seen since my favorite Fourth Doctor story, The Braid of Morbius. And I lost it. I would love to see the Sisterhood of Karn more. I'm disappointed that we don't see them more often. But still, it was great to see them again. And they're like, so you're going to die, and you got less than 4 minutes. But our elixir can force you to regenerate. Ooh. And so they're like, but it's not random. You can pick what you want it to be. Which is kind of funny because if you go back to like Romana, she could pick her regenerations at will, even if she's not dying. She's like, I'm changing. Bye. So, whatever. Not even talking about that continuity error. So he's like, well, they don't need a doctor. They need a warrior. And so, what do we get? We're going to get the War Doctor. So it's super excited to see him just struggling with this and talk about it. I love the line of like where he's like, will it hurt? And she's like, yep. And then, of course, the next Doctor incarnation is John Hurt. So it's like, it hurt. So stuff like that. But I don't know. I really liked the story. There have been so many rumors about giving the Eighth Doctor like a mini-series or just like his own spin-off TV show and stuff like that. And I would 100% be down for it. I would love to see more of the Eighth Doctor. And realistically, one day I will get around to listening to some of the Big Finish audio. But, I mean, it took me years. I probably first heard about Doctor Who in like 2007, maybe 2008. I was in college. And somebody's like, have you ever seen this? I'm like, I don't know what that is. And then I didn't even watch it until 2012-ish, somewhere in there. So that was like 5 years from when I heard about it to when I watched it. Because it was overwhelming. The more I learned about it, it was so overwhelming. And then Big Finish is kind of the same way. Like, it's a little bit overwhelming. You don't really know where to start. So, I don't know. I'll get to it eventually, but it's scary. So, overall, I'd say the movie's okay. It's not as bad as most people make it out to be. It's definitely worth a watch. but it's not great. It's definitely a lot of tropes. It's a lot of really bad acting, filmmaking, all of that jazz. But Night of the Doctor is phenomenal. It was so great, and I absolutely loved it. And it puts me in the perfect mood to start New Who. So I'm really, really excited for it. So thank you guys. Let me know what you think about the movie. And I will see you guys next time for Rose.